Your next career or life move does not have to be an either or choice. Give yourself a both and decision. By Marion Lewis and Wendy Smith. When facing a dilemma or conflict, here's how to find a creative win-win situation. Elle Frank faced a challenging career dilemma. After 10 years of working with difficult teams and in toxic cultures, she finally landed a position she loved. She was leading a great team as the head of a development in a local hospital. Together, they had ambitious goals for a new fundraising campaign. Good work rarely goes unnoticed. A few months into the campaign, she was offered a job as head of development of the largest hospital system in the region. Would she take the job? As dilemmas go, this was a good one to have. Still, Frank was pulled between commitment to her current team and moving for her own career advancement. The tension felt palpable. We grapple with tensions like these in our lives, careers, leadership, and society. Do we focus on career or family? How can we take care of ourselves while supporting others? How do we express our individuality and be a team player? How do we innovate without undermining our existing success? These dilemmas can raise uncertainty and anxiety. Feeling caught in a tug-of-war, we seek comfort of a clear and decisive response. Yet such either-or thinking is limited at best, detrimental at worst. It can leave us spiraling in vicious cycle. There is an alternative. Over the past 25 years, we've studied how people approach such dilemmas. We've surveyed thousands of people worldwide, leaders and learners, parents and partners. These people find the most creative solutions when they shift from either-or to both-and thinking. They value tensions and embrace competing demands. Elle Frank was able to do so in her own career decision. Choose wisely. When facing a dilemma, a common reaction is to treat alternative options as mutually exclusive. We think we can only choose one side. Frank felt pressure to make a choice between staying with an existing job or moving to a new job. Before getting stuck in this decision, she could expand the potential solutions. The first step in doing so is to surface the paradoxes that lie within our dilemmas. Paradoxes are interwoven opposites: love and hate, self and other, give and take, vulnerability and strength, new and old. The yin-yangs pull in different directions. They also define and inform one another. The more we take care of ourselves, the more resources and energy we have to take care of others. The more that we are able to feel vulnerable, the greater our strength and impact. Underlying Frank's decision were paradoxes of stability and change, loyalty and opportunity, performing well and learning new things. Paradoxes are not a new concept. For millennia, philosophers argued that our world resides on the ebbs and flows of interdependent opposites. It is only recently that people are starting to apply the age-old ideas to individual and collective decision-making. Reframe to a both-and question. As Frank suggested with her career decision, she reached out to friends and mentors for advice. One treasured mentor proved particularly helpful. As Frank laid out the pros and cons of each option, her mentor pointed out the either-or question: should she stick with the current job or move to a new one? The mentor invited her to shift to both and questions. How could she both perform well and learn new things? How could she value the stability of her current role and embrace change and opportunity? How could she be loyal to her current team and existing campaign while taking advantage of a new position? Psychologist Paul Watzlawick once argued that the problem is not the problem is how we think about the problem. When we face competing demands, instead of asking, should I choose A or B, we can ask, how can I engage both A and B? Research by colleagues Ellen Maron-Spector, Francesca Dino, and Linda Argote shows that people are more creative when they adopt a both-and frame for competing demands, rather than an either-or frame. Separate and connect. Typically, people make decisions by laying out the options, considering the pros and cons of each option, and then using that analysis to make a decision. Some people make more extensive pro-con lists, while others adopt to a more intuitive gut sense approach. Either way, we describe this overall process as separating and analyzing. We pull apart the options, separate, and evaluate each analyze in order to make a clear decision. Both-and thinking depends on what we describe as separating and connecting. We still need to pull apart and understand each option, yet we do so in order to identify how these opposing demands can support and reinforce one another. In research with our colleague Kostas Andreopoulos, we identify key practices that organizational leaders use for separating and connecting. By laying out the pros and cons of each decision, Frank started seeing how these alternatives reinforced one another. Her loyalty and commitment to her current team is what drove their successes and led them toward new opportunities. Embracing new opportunities for herself might enable her to offer new possibilities for her team and demonstrate her continued loyalty and commitment. Shift from choice to choosing. When we adopt traditional either or thinking, our goal is to make a choice between alternative options. In contrast, for both and thinking, the goal is choosing. Making a choice feels final. Choosing feels like identifying a workable solution that moves us forward, even if we might reevaluate and consider the options in the future. Choosing leaves us open to recognize that we are never solving the underlying paradoxes, but always ready to re engage with them. We defined two patterns of choosing: mules and tightrope walkers. The easier solution for people to get their heads around in the mule. The mule, a hybrid between a horse and a donkey, illustrates a creative integration and offering an elephant impractical solution that accommodates competing demands and simultaneously. Frank has some mule options. She can take the new job and bring some of her current team along with her, therefore having the chance to value the new challenges without worrying about the new people. She could also use the new job offer to negotiate with the current job, seeking to move into a more senior role and therefore enabling new challenges without leaving her current work environment. She might also have some options that exemplify tightrope walking, small shifts between alternatives that lead to consistent pattern over time. Tightrope walkers move forward in an overall balance by consistently shifting their weight left to right. Rather than find a static balance, they are continuously balancing. We see the same thing when we are navigating a paradox, a constant shift between alternative options over time. Frank has some tightrope walking options. For example, she could negotiate with the new job to delay her start date, an option enabling her to spend more time shoring up transition plan for her current role and finishing the current campaign. She might also explore how she could work as a consultant to the old job until the hospital has trained a new leader. In the end, Frank decided to take the new job at the larger hospital, but she negotiated with the senior leaders in the hospital to allow her to serve as an advisor to the old team for transition period. Overall, this arrangement turned out well. Frank's new boss valued her loyalty to the old company and committed to the existing capital campaign, seeing these attributes as assets to the large hospital as well. He also recognized that she would be more engaged with the new work if she could tie up loose ends in the old job. He offered her the option of taking 1 day a week for the first 4 weeks to work with her current team. In doing so, Frank identified and trained her replacement, a rising star from the old team. But Frank also knew of another rising star on the same team, someone with outstanding capabilities but not ready for such a leadership role. Knowing this second rising star skills and recognizing that this person might resent having a former peer as a new boss, Frank hired her into the new team, ensuring some consistency of colleagues. We face dilemmas in our lives and leadership daily. The challenge is not whether we engage with these tensions, but how. Increasingly, people are calling on both and thinking as a possibility. By developing effective strategies, we can move from using the language of both and thinking to effectively adopting this approach. That way, we can all build more creative responses to our greatest challenges.